Hello there, I'm Robert McKay. The channel, of course, as you saw, is Whiskey for Beginners. And I wouldn't be doing a video at all. It's, yeah, I got a smudge on my glasses. By my reckoning, which is not congruent with the clock, it's still Sunday night. I'm done with vacation. As I record, it is now officially 02:13 on the morning of the 1st of September, but because I'm done with vacation, I'm staying up all night till I have to go to bed and get up for a late shift. And so, it being, for me, still Sunday night, I wasn't going to do a video because I don't do them on Sundays. It's not any God'll get me if I do thing. Nothing like that. I just prefer not to. But I pulled this out. It was the next bottle up in the rotation. You can see how low it is. And this bottle has a punt. And so it's actually even lower than it looks. So I'm going to go ahead and pour it. Why some people say pour it up, I don't know. They pour it up, they taste it up. I wonder if they review it up. The way people talk is not always rational. So killing the bottle makes the glass a bit fuller than I would normally pour it. But if I had kept it at that level, there would just be essentially a drop left. So what is this? I've been waving the bottle around. I've already done a video where Sippin and Talkin, which this is. With this bottle, it's Wild Turkey Rare Breed. It is an ostensible barrel proof, but every single bottle is 116.8 proof, which means they're fudging the term barrel proof a bit. If I thought it would stay, I would do that, but, well, it might, but I'm not going to risk it. So I'll put it there. I thought I was in the right place. I had to shift a tad. But I had something in mind that I was going to talk about, and the introduction drove it right out of my head. That's what happens when you do things without a script, as I do. I don't even have notes. I just have I know which whiskey I'm going to sip on, and I have an idea of what I'm going to talk about, and it's gone. So let's talk about Wild Turkey. This is an interesting story as to how it got the name. There was a man named Austin Nichols, at least if I remember correctly, he was the one involved. The Wild Turkey Distillery, at any rate at one time, was called the Austin Nichols. And at one point, the labels, this is years ago, said Austin Nichols Wild Turkey. And so I believe it was him. He had a bunch of, he ran a distillery, and he had a bunch of friends he'd go turkey hunting with, and they'd like to sit around the fire at night and drink whiskey. And so he would tap a barrel, take some whiskey out, and they liked it. And they said, keep on bringing it. Every trip he'd bring it. And they started calling it the Wild Turkey whiskey. And it struck him that that would be a good brand name. And that's where that come from. And that's one story that, as far as I can determine, is actually true. Some of them ain't. And Wild Turkey has one mash bill, well, two mash bills, because they also make rye. but for the bourbon they have one mash bill. Every bottle of Wild Turkey bourbon comes from that one mash bill. And I don't remember the percentages. I believe it's 70% corn, which, if that's correct, would make the other 30% divide between rye and barley. And, well, I don't know. I'm trying to think. I can't remember if this is what they call a high rye mash bill. And different people will define high rye differently. I figure around 20%, a bit lower, a bit higher maybe. I can't remember if this is a high rye mash bill. It may not be. The percentage of corn may be above 70. But all their bourbon has this one mash bill, and the difference in nose and palate and finish comes from how long it ages and where it ages. And the proof also. Proof can affect flavor. The Wild Turkey 101, I've not had their 81 proof, but I bet you the 101 tastes better than the 81. And, well, I was going to say this tastes better than the 101, but it's not a fair comparison because they're doing different things to this than they do to the 101. So they use one mash bill, and on the rye side they use one mash bill and come up with these various expressions of Wild Turkey bourbon. There's a lot of cinnamon and brown sugar in there. Jimmy Russell, I don't know if he is still officially the master distiller, but he has worked for Wild Turkey for, I think by now it's 71 years, an employee of the same company, essentially his whole life. He started out, as I recall, sweeping floors. And he did this and he did that, and he worked his way up and become the master distiller. And that's how things used to be. Jack Daniel learned to make whiskey helping Nathan Green, whom everybody calls Uncle Nearest because that is a term of affectionate respect that was prevalent back in the 1800s when a white person was addressing a black person. And you want to talk about racism? It's the people who find it odd that a white boy would learn to make whiskey from a black man. They're the ones who are focusing on the color. Jack Daniel wasn't focusing on the color. He wanted to learn whiskey. He learned it from Nearest Green, Uncle Nearest. And that's how Jimmy, my brain just went blank, Jimmy Russell become the master distiller. And he truly is a master distiller. There are distilleries which just put their head distiller, they give him that title. Sometimes the master distiller spends more time out and about promoting the distillery's whiskey than he does actually making whiskey. But Jimmy Russell is a master of distilling. And his son Eddie has come in. In fact, let me just look at the label, see if this will tell me anything. It has Jimmy Russell's signature here. It says Master Distiller. I don't see anything that would tell me. But I know Eddie has come in and he has been taking on a larger and larger role. He's Jimmy's son. Or is it grandson? Some people keep up with all these details. I don't. But Jimmy Russell being there and being in the master distiller position for so long has enabled Wild Turkey to be real consistent with its stuff. and a little bit of bite on my throat. I swallowed slightly wrong. Sometimes you can be too consistent, like this. It's supposed to be barrel proof. Well, to get true barrel proof, you're going to have varying proofs because it's going to, by definition, be a single barrel. And every bottle is 116.8 proof, and it says down here, a unique uncut blend of bourbon whiskey crafted in small batches. Well, I guarantee you that they are not finding barrel after barrel after barrel that is just naturally at 116.8 proof. Now, you can't proof whiskey up, at least not straight whiskey. If you add in what they call grain neutral spirits, which is essentially just vodka, it comes off the still at such a high proof it has essentially no flavor and no aroma. If you put that in, yes, it'll raise the proof, but then you can't call it straight bourbon whiskey. And this is straight bourbon whiskey. So what they're having to do is either each batch, they dump the barrels, batch them together, and then proof that down to 116.8, or, and this would be the more difficult and more time-consuming and thus more expensive process, or they're proofing each individual barrel down to 116.8 and then dumping it and saying, well, the whiskey as it came out of the barrel was 116.8. I hate to say it because I like Wild Turkey and I respect Jimmy Russell, but they're playing mind games with us on calling this a barrel proof whiskey. But it's mighty good. It has the, now I'm not getting it tonight for whatever reason. Maybe it's because it's the last glass. But this has the thickest mouthfeel I've ever encountered, even on higher proof whiskeys. I went specifically looking for the mouthfeel that time, and yeah, it's there. I just hadn't noticed it previously. Now this bottle, I got it at Total Wine on the 7th of April, so just almost 5 months ago. And that tells you how slow I drink whiskey. Granted, I have a rotation of, it's anywhere between 15 to 20 bottles depending on the day. And so I'm not drinking on the same bottle every day. But still, 5 months to go through a fifth, I'm not drinking it too fast. And it cost me $58.99. $59. Near enough to 60 as makes no never mind. Is it worth it? To me, it is. Now, I'm not going to run out and buy a bottle of this just as soon as I get the chance. For one thing, on Wednesday, I've got an eye doctor appointment, and because I'm signed up with the VA, I don't have any insurance, so it's all got to come out of my own pocket, and I don't know how much it's going to run me. For another thing, this past Friday, technically this is Monday, so Monday, Sunday, Saturday, Friday, 4 days ago, 3 or 4 days ago, was my anniversary, 46 years, and I bought a bunch of fish and hush puppies from Long John Silver's. I figured we can eat on that for several days at about the same price it would cost us to eat once at the Dead Lobster, and so that's the route I went. Next time, for various reasons, I might just go for the Dead Lobster. But my wife and I both love Long John Silver's. But The one was an expected expense. It's all expected expenses, but who knows how much it's going to take out of my bank account. And the reason that I'm going to the eye doctor is no longer operative. I made this appointment back in, I believe, December. Or I tried to make it. It took a couple of weeks before they got back to me. I hate talking on the phone, so I tried to do it on the computer, and they said, we'll call you back, we'll call you back. And finally, I was about to call them, and they finally called me back. I couldn't get the doctor I wanted, but she's extremely good, and I guess she's just full up. But from, as I say, I think about December, might have been January, until September is how long I've had to wait for this appointment. And the scary thing that was going on with my eyes back in June began to dissipate, and now I'm seeing about as well as I was before. So from November to June, I was having troubles. From June till now, I'm not. But at the same time, the troubles I was having began to dissipate, I realized my eyes had gone through a major change. Usually it's gradual, but here it happened suddenly. And maybe what the other thing was part of that, I don't know. I'm not an eye doctor, that's why I'm going to one. But that means I'll need a new prescription. I got these just before I left Sam's Club, which was in August of 2020. These are brand new when I started at Smith's on the last day of August 2020. So my eyes were changing anyways, slowly, imperceptibly. But I need a new prescription, and I don't know how much it's going to cost to get the lenses and the frames. Now, I've seen commercials for Warby Parker, or whatever the name of it is, where they say you get the complete pair of glasses for like $100. But is this bifocals? Because that's what I have. That's what I need. If it's not bifocal, or if that price is not bifocals, then they'll cost even more. I'll have to look around at the, I don't even know what the fancy term is. Optician maybe? I don't know. At the glasses store when I'm up at Eye Associates. My appointment's in the morning, so I'll drive up, and then I'll have to wait for my eyes to undilate, contract, before I can drive home. But I'll have plenty of time for that. And as part of the time I spend, I can look around their place and see what they got in the way of frames and prices. I really don't want to go back to Wally World or Sam's Club where I got these. For one thing, I won't get any discount now because I'm not an employee. It might be cheaper, I might wind up doing it, but I hate giving them people my money. That is an evil company. And take it from me, I worked for Walmart at both Walmart and Sam's Club. It's the same company. I worked for them for 17 very long years. Take it from me, if you think Walmart is a good company, you have never worked there. Brown sugar and cinnamon, honey. There's something else in there, maybe a tinge of oak. And I haven't even told you what I get on the nose. Well, my right nostril's being extra sensitive to alcohol tonight. Yeah, brown sugar, cinnamon, honey on the nose. Maybe some vanilla. Maybe some caramel. I know I've said this umpteen times through my videos, but if you have not subscribed to Beautiful Bourbon, you should. Casey Allen is extremely entertaining. In fact, you should subscribe to Beautiful Bourbon, Stuff and Whiskey with Josh and Aaron, SLB Drinks with Kurt and Trenton. There are other channels out there that I'm subscribed to, but those three are the best I've ever encountered. Well, I take it back. There was another one, but it was a husband and wife team, and they either are divorced by now or are still divorcing. And I have I don't understand it. When they announced that that was happening and that they were going to be, or Sarah was going to be departing the channel, they said they began as friends, became husband and wife, and are now friends again. I don't understand it. I really, literally don't understand it. But then, my wife has never been my friend. People will say, my wife is my best friend. My best friend, the best friend I've ever had in my life, is not as close to me as my wife. I wouldn't want to do it, but if I had to choose between my wife and my best friend would get run over by a train. And Judge Parker over in whatever got run over by a train. Well, I wasn't run over by a train. If you don't get it, please go watch Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? That little bit is towards the end of it. But it's a hilarious movie, and I didn't realize it till later, but it's actually retelling the Odyssey. And there's a Cyclops in there, and there's a quest, and all this other. But Ulysses Everett McGill can't get Dapper Dan at this country store. All he can get is Fop. That's his hair treatment, pomade, greasy kid stuff. They can't. Guy who owns a store can order it. It'll be there in 2 weeks. They want to get a part for their car. He doesn't have it, but he can order it. It'll be there in 2 weeks. And Ulysses Everett McGill says, well, ain't this place a geographical oddity? 2 weeks from everywheres. Although I say it more hick than he does. By the way, George Clooney, who plays McGill, is from Kentucky. I don't know what he normally sounds like, but I bet you money he just reverted to his native accent. Except we Southerners don't have an accent, y'all Yankees do. So this is kind of a ramble of a sipping and talking. I started out talking about wild turkey, stuck with that a fair little while, and then I went bing, bing, bong, boo, boo, bing. Oh, there's a rabbit. Let's chase it for 5 miles. But I don't, as I say, I don't have a script. With sipping and talking videos, I don't even, well, I usually have a topic. I forgot what this one was, as I mentioned. And in and amongst the topic, other things weave in and out and up and down and crossways. And my trail's all side-goggling. It's not a Texas word as far as I know, but it is real helpful. It's one of them words that if it didn't exist, you'd have to invent it. And the Appalachian people did invent it. And what it means is something that's all crooked or something that's leaning, it's out of plumb, it isn't straight. So you can get a road that's all side-goggling. You got a barn out there, ain't nobody used it in 100 years and it's about to fall over, it's side-goggling. And Southern English, and I'm going to wrap it up because I'm at 25 minutes, but Southern English is the most pungent, piquant, unique, colorful, emphatic variety of English I know. And the more countrified the Southern English is, the more that's true. You won't find a stockbroker in Atlanta saying Saigoglin. And as I said, as far as I'm aware, it's not a Texas word. We got our own unique words. But country people, if they don't have a word and they do have the concept, they'll invent the word. And there's not a thing wrong with that. They say Shakespeare invented hundreds of new words, and many of them are now ordinary parts of the English language. I don't know. I've never seen what's the big deal is about Shakespeare. I've read a few of his plays. I've read several of his sonnets. Big, fat, hairy deal. I don't much care for F. Scott Fitzgerald either. I found out that if they call it the classics or the great books, probably I don't like it. Does that mean my taste is down under the basement? Maybe so. But I'm the one who has to read the book. If I don't enjoy it, I ain't going to read it. We set the bottle aside. We take up the glass, which is now about where I would have normally poured. And I got to find out if there is a peculiarly Texan or at least Southern toast. I can't think of any, and I'd like to use one. And I need to find one to stick with, because every time I come to the end of the video, I have the same problem. What toast do I give you? And I recently recorded one where I plumb forgot. Maybe I'll do this. Yeehaw!